Welcome to the Inside Tack Show. It's been a whirlwind 6 weeks of racing. Let's think back to what's happened. Well, the prelims, they were tricky. Round 1, we got a bit better. And by round 2, we were really cooking on gas, which is great news because we won the regatta. Because of that, that meant that we got our spot in the semi-finals and chose to take on Alinghi. And then the rest is history. So now to the Louis Vuitton Cup final. That's where we're heading tomorrow. Mother Nature and Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli await us there. We have been here before, of course, 3 years ago, and more on that in just a moment. Also this week we saw the youth team in action, which was fantastic. And in the coming days, the women's campaign is going to get underway as well. To chat about all of that, I've got Ben Ainsley and Hannah Mills alongside me, spearheading both the Cup and women's challenges. Here's a recap, though, of all the action to date so far.
Ineos Britannia, we'd like to pick for the semi-finals of the Louis Vuitton Cup. We'd like to race Arno and Alinghi Red Bull Racing.
Inside the last 10 seconds, this is the second race of the day in the Louis Vuitton Cup semi-finals.
Pressure looks okay out of this right turn at the moment.
5 legs to go.
Big gains there to Ineos Britannia, all getting quite high there and heeled, so that rudder only just in the water there for the British. Having to avoid protests here, big risk of that collision. Oh, that is super close there.
That will make it 3-0, and it is a big job and a big step towards the Louis Vuitton Cup final.
They're right on the edge here, 18 knots, they're going to struggle.
6 knots now, Alinghi Red Bull Racing.
We could be seeing a really big lead change here.
GBR just underlay. Not any room for error, weren't making the boy, had to tack, we're down speed.
But today on a Wednesday in Barcelona, the official challenger of record, Ineos Britannia, have landed the knockout punch, and they are the first team through to the Louis Vuitton Cup final.
So before we talk Cup final, we're just going to talk about that. What had looked to be plain sailing turned out to be not so much. I love Rob Wilson's face on that chase boat at the end where he just went, whew. It's like how all of us were feeling in that moment. It's a little bit like watching Andy Murray at Wimbledon and going, please, willing everything to go right. I mean, how did that feel like as far as you guys as a team were concerned? Because it was straight off the bat, you know, quite a few wins on the board, and then they sort of climbed back into it a little.
Yeah, well, we got the, I mean, technically we didn't win that round robin. I think the Kiwis were the top team, but we were the top challenging team.
Yeah, but they
so
didn't count the
that
points.
gave us the right to pick the opponent for the semi-finals.
And technicality.
Yeah, so it was we picked Alinghi for a reason, and we knew they would be tough in the light winds, and they were tough in the light winds. So it wasn't a surprise. Whilst it might have been a surprise to some other people, it wasn't really a surprise to us, and it was a really good test, and they were a good test in some other ways as well. And so
what did we
that's how
learn?
it played
What did we
out.
learn from that Swiss encounter?
Well, you do obviously that the light airs is an area where they are strong, and if we've got, you know, there's plenty of areas we can improve on, but certainly light airs is one of them, and so it was a good opportunity for us to learn more and sail and race in those conditions, and certainly the gap between the semis and the finals, we've been working hard on that lighter air stuff, as well as the rest of the conditions where we can still make some big gains. So that's a good thing.
Hannah, as you rushed in here this evening, you said, "Oh, today was just such a beautiful day of sailing because it was just a beautiful sea state. It was lovely weather. It was absolutely champagne sailing." I mean, you've been watching from afar because you've been busy training with your team in the lead up to the Women's Cup. What have you made of the Cup action so far as this group of sailors are concerned and the team that's performing?
It's been so impressive, I'll be honest, to see where we were at the start of all the round robins and the prelims and stuff, and where we ended that last semi-finals, just the step up in terms of the boat performance and how you guys are all communicating together on board. You can hear so much of the comms through the commentary, and it's just sounding it's slicker and slicker every day. The attention to detail on the manoeuvres and where you put the boat, everything's just really coming together. So I think, we're all pretty excited to see how it plays out.
We are, and it starts playing out tomorrow against Luna Rossa Prada Pirelli, and we have faced them before. What did you learn from those matchups, and what did you learn from what you saw with them in action against the Americans in the last round?
Yeah, I think we saw particularly Luna Rossa and Team New Zealand coming out the blocks firing in the prelim regatta and the round robins. They were the two teams that appeared to be most polished in terms of their preparation and performance. And certainly, we've talked about it a lot, we were pretty rusty coming into that series for various reasons. And I think the performance the gap has narrowed. They're an incredible team. They've got a huge history in the Cup. They're going to be very tough to beat. But I think the last couple of races we had against them, we were able to match them well, both in lighter airs and stronger winds. So I think it's going to be fascinating.
When I saw this match-up on paper, I thought, oh, this takes us back to New Zealand and sort of the same stage, the same match-up. And they were pretty convincing on that occasion. So how are we going to be different this time?
I think it's a very different game now. I think all of the teams have converged with the second iteration of this class rule. The differences between the teams is much smaller than it was in Auckland. I think we were competitive against Luna Rossa in the fresher winds in Auckland, but anything below 12 knots of wind, we had a pretty serious speed disadvantage, and they also sailed a great series. But to win that would have taken something pretty special. Now I think it's a much more even boat race in terms of the tools that we both teams have, and I think it's going to be a seriously close series.
Okay, you had me at close series. That's brilliant. That's exactly what everyone wants to hear. And we're going to talk about the women's team and their campaign in just a moment, but the youth team were in action this week, and they were absolutely brilliant. Bring on the fleet racing, because that was so exciting to watch. A nail-biting finish in the semis yesterday. Here's what happened.
Yeah, the racing over these last 2 days has just been absolutely incredible. To see how well the teams are all sailing the boats is just fascinating, and I'm confident that any one of the teams that finished that got through to the finals would have been seriously competitive. We've been down the road. It's been a great setup where we've really learned ourselves and really learned how to look after the boat and how to sail it ourselves. I think for us all as individuals, we'll come out a lot stronger from the experience and the campaign that the team's put together. So yeah, it's been fascinating to watch. The racing's been incredible. The race management team have done just a fantastic job, and to be honest, so have Ace and all of the pit team here looking after the boats. We had a few little snafus with some of the boats in the early stages, but other than that, it's been exemplary and a fantastic racing setup. Onwards and upwards for the women's event in a few weeks' time. They're in great shape, I think in a lot better shape than they realised. Yeah, really excited about the future and really excited for the future of the 4 guys that sailed on this team and every one of the team members that's a part of it.
So the Athena, I can't put my teeth back in. The Athena pathway finishing just short of the winner-takes-all youth match race final. Cool, that is a sentence to get out. Hannah, how proud are you of that gang of guys and girls? Because they were exemplary over the course of that week.
Oh, they were. Their learning curve through the racing from the first round to the semi-finals, they just went like that. And to miss the match race final by a point was just gut-wrenching for all of us watching. But I think they should be so proud, and we all are so proud of the performance they put down against some insanely strong teams. And so to finish third, just behind American Magic and Luna Rossa was really impressive.
I think that's a really good point. They were up against some serious talent and they held their own. But also, you get the feeling that there's real strength and depth there. I mean, in terms of the future of British sailing and the Athena Pathway programme and everything that you two are trying to do with that, I mean, how bright does it all look?
Yeah, it's awesome, isn't it? You know, we've had a strong team out here. Even to get on the boat for the youth team was a real battle. We had kind of 6 people vying for those spots, and you know, a load of other people actually who didn't quite make it to come out here to Barcelona and be part of this journey, but were kind of there, almost making it. So the strength and depth is looking really good and exciting, I guess, for the future.
Now, you and I have spoken about this many a time. Both of us get a little bit emotional about it. But how excited are you about the fact that we are on the cusp of the first ever Women's America's Cup?
Yeah, it feels surreal that we're almost here, actually. Feels like something that we've been looking at for at least 2, if not more, years. And so for it to be around the corner is, yeah, insanely exciting. It's obviously like any big regatta, you're nervous, you're excited all at the same time, and you're just trying to focus on those last few details of preparation so that you keep feeling like you're improving right up until the race itself and then throughout the whole regatta. But everyone's excited. I think the youth was awesome to watch and kick us off, and now the whole team's had a good night last night celebrating the youth, and now we've come back and everyone's full charge to try and do our best at the women's.
I mean, this is also history-making stuff, Ben, isn't it? So, I mean, how important is it? What does it feel like to be part of this whole group of people that are bringing this to the fore and you know, campaigning for women and equality in your sport?
I think what Hannah and Chris and the rest of the team have done with the Pathway programme is just fantastic. You know, and like Hannah said, we're super proud of the boys yesterday. I mean, one, you know, tough jibe away from making it through to that match race final, and they did brilliantly. And as Chris said in the VT, you know, they've got great, really bright futures ahead of them. It's good to see. And then Hannah and the female team about to get going first Women's America's Cup, not a moment too soon. Big moment for the sport and certainly for the America's Cup. And like I said, great to see. We're right behind you and the rest of the team, and just really excited to see it get going. We
saw this week how tricky it was sometimes for the youth team to contend with the conditions out on the water. It's so unpredictable out there. And we know, Hannah, from what you just said earlier about coming in and having a lovely day sailing, the difference that can make in terms of a team's confidence and everything else. Ben, you've also had to contend with some pretty interesting conditions. Let's just explain what's been going on in Barcelona and why it can be so very different from day to day.
Now in Barcelona, we have one race course, and you might think that the Mediterranean is a fairly tranquil sea, but actually what we're finding here is that it's pretty wavy. Every other day we go out, the sea state is over 1/2 metre high, and our pilots and our trimmers and our helmsmen on board the boat are now not flying the boats on a billiard surface flat bit of ocean. They've got to deal with the lumps and bumps of the sea state rolling in. In general, the breeze might be a little bit lighter than what we saw in Auckland as well. So not only have you got this sea state to cope with, we think that the average wind speed for that time of year might be a little bit lighter than what the boats were designed for last time round.
So my question is, Mother Nature discussed, because you mentioned it in the press conference earlier as well. You haven't got just the Italians to think about in this next set of racing, but you've also got Mother Nature to consider.
We all do.
And what bigger difference does that make, or could that make, to the outcome, to the result here?
Yeah, I think in a technical sport, America's Cup is obviously one of the most technical sports, so you're going to get that. As it's impossible to design a boat that's going to be the fastest across the whole range of 6 to 21 knots and dead flat water to lumpy seas. So you've got to try and find a package that's competitive across that whole range, and inevitably it's going to have its sweet spots, and that's what the 3 remaining teams in this cup, they're all going to have their sweet spots, you know, be that the Kiwis, Italians, ourselves. And you know, tomorrow is supposed to be quite decent breeze, some big waves, so we'll see how that plays out. And then later on at the weekend, I think a little bit lighter breezes. So you just have to be prepared for anything, and of course you've got to deal with whatever you get, right? And it's the same with the 40s. You know, I'm sure some teams are probably a little bit better in the waves than others, and lighter airs over stronger airs, and you know, that's the beauty of the sport of sailing.
I've started doing with our daughter and son a little wind dance now. to just get us into the mood for the whole thing. I honestly, as a spectator,
So is that because you think we need more wind?
What? Yeah, as a spectator sport, as a spectator sport, it's just absolutely spectacular when these things are absolutely spinning around
at
these really
floating
crazy.
around in displacement.
No, you want to see them foil in all their splendour because that's what they look spectacular doing. Hannah, what does it feel like being on one of these boats, being on an AC40 and contending with a really tricky sea state? What does that actually feel like?
Yeah, hectic.
Is it terrifying?
It can be, yeah. I mean, you know, the AC40 doesn't fit always so well in the swell here in Barcelona. So we saw a bit with the youth racing actually on the first couple of days. There's some reasonable swell to deal with, and yeah, everything, you just weirdly want to speed everything up, but actually you just have to slow everything down. You know, the boat is right on the edge, so you can't turn too hard. You have to be really patient. But they're just unreal boats. You know, today we had flat water and we were just cruising downwind at 40 knots. It's just unbelievable.
And I can tell you though, the AC40s are way harder to sail than the AC75.
Oh, interesting.
In the waves, because like Hannah says, they're obviously half the size, and trying to deal with the swell, keep the foil in the water is almost impossible. So, hats off.
But on board Britannia, how does it affect the roles on board, the different sort of sea states and also the wind conditions? What does it mean for the cyclors, for instance? What do they have to be paying attention to? What challenges do they face depending on what conditions you get?
Yeah, I mean, normally if you get more sea state, then you've got to trim more, and obviously that's going to require more power, so they don't like it. Thankfully, none of them get seasick, so that's a plus.
Well, I mean, if you were a sailor and you did, that would be problematic, wouldn't it?
No, but these are
occupational hazard.
You're
right. Some of them are rowers.
Rowers, and they don't normally. Well, probably maybe they have rowed on the sea, but normally they'll be rowing on the lake.
Although there are reports of a few people throwing up after some hefty shifts, are there not? Based on just putting out the energy.
I don't think that's got anything to do with the sea state.
Okay, that's not to do with the sea state. Talking of tricky customers, what do we expect if we leap ahead, which I know you hate doing, but if we are thinking about if we can get through this next phase, then we have the Kiwis in an America's Cup match. Are we keeping an eye on what they're doing, or are we just ignoring them until it matters?
We're not ignoring them, but that'd be a nice problem to have.
Okay. Should we look at the schedule? Here is the schedule. So here how it's going to pan out over the course of the next couple of weeks, and some seriously big days of racing ahead. Like you say, tomorrow it looks like the conditions are quite spicy. Over the weekend they're dropping away a little bit. Are you worried about that? Are you paying attention to that, or are you just taking each day as it comes?
Yeah, pretty much each day as it comes. Yeah, it looks a little bit lighter for the weekend, but still okay. You know, I think to your point earlier, as long as we can keep the boats up in their foils and it doesn't become a drift off, then I think everyone will be happy.
We are going to need these reserve days, though, aren't we? We've already seen that sometimes the conditions don't do exactly what we would like them to do, and that's just a facet, isn't it, of this cup racing? Yeah, that's just sailing, eh? Like, you're just always expecting to wait and be patient and just have to be ready. How do you manage that, though, Hannah? Because you've obviously got that as part of your psychology in this game, that you've got to be able to deal with that. How do you get up and then have to sort of cool yourself down if it doesn't go ahead that day and go again the next one? I think everyone's different, probably, and for me, it's always you stay ticking over, ready to go at any moment, knowing your preparation is, you know, in a 10-minute period you can get to where you need to be, and then as soon as it's cut, I just totally switch off and relax for the next wee while until it's time to kind of start in that whole routine again. Have you learned how to do that yet? Have you learned how to cut and switch off?
I've been sailing with Hannah for the last couple of years now, so I'm learning from the best. I'm not sure you've learned how to cut back at all. Come on, give me a break. Okay, it's my birthday, so I'm going to wrap this up because we're going to a birthday dinner and we are late, so we're going to do that. It's not like we need to hype this thing up because it's already there, but we've done it anyway. Here you go. Louis Vuitton Cup finals got huge provenance in the sport of sailing. Just making it that far for any team is a great achievement, but we want more.
The Louis Vuitton final is something fantastic because it gives you the possibility to aspire to be in the America's Cup.
It's the magic of Luna Rossa. I cannot tell you the secret.
Catching him on the tack, eh? Let's keep it simple, one and in here. Now taking this.
Pushing, boys, pushing.
Nice work, guys. Solid.
Bravi cazzo, boys! Vai!